So Arslanbek, Makhmudov absolutely plasters Raphael Akpejiori in 2 rounds. And thank God this fight only lasted 2 rounds because it was terrible. This was shaping up to be a really ugly fight. Two guys, very big, very tall, constantly coming into clinches and holds. I think mostly on the part of Akpejiori, he was, I think it's fair to say, pretty nondescript opponent. Whereas with Makhmudov, we know there's a bit of quality there, and at the bare minimum, Makhmudov did what he was supposed to do against this level of opponent, which was club him from the opening bell, try and get some shots through, and eventually take him out. And as I say, finished fighting 2 rounds. Akpejiori was down twice in round one and once in round two. None of the knockdowns were great, just because, and I don't really want to say that this is Makhmudov's fault because I don't think it is. He just tried to get his shots off wherever he could. But Akpejiori was holding on for dear life at times, making the fight very scrappy, and Makhmudov just had to really try and get through with what he could. However, with Makhmudov, he did show a fair bit of IQ where he changed the trajectory mostly on his right hand. That seems to be the only punch that he's really willing to throw with a lot of commitment is the right hand. He seems to be a bit of a one-handed fighter. But I think it was within the first 2 seconds when both guys walked out to the centre of the ring, he already tried to line up Akpejiori with an overhand right. Tried it a few more times, and Akpejiori, I guess you can give him some credit, he started to use the lead left hand to either jab Makhmudov or control his head as he looked to put his body into position to launch those overhand rights. And from there, it would usually fall into a clinch. So with Akpejiori leaning over to his right side, Makhmudov saw that it's probably best now to change that overhand right into a right uppercut where he'd slip the lead hand of Akpejiori and line it up that way. And he had a decent amount of success with it. This is all relatively basic stuff at the highest level. However, I think it shows that Makhmudov, within a short space of time, he can see how he has to change up his punches, and he goes for it, which, for what it's worth, that can be the difference sometimes if you're willing to pull the trigger and try and get your shots off by any means necessary. But this is really to be expected, as I say, because Akpejiori came into the fight 15-0 with 14 KOs. So on paper, 6'8", 32-year-old Nigerian guy, looks athletic. I think he's a former American football player when he was at university in Miami, or basketball player, maybe even both, I think. So an athletic guy, a big guy, good record, but you scratch beneath the surface and you see, okay, he himself has fought some pretty terrible opposition. His last fight in January of this year was against Del Long, who has a record of 7 wins, 11 losses, and 2 draws. Yeah, speaks for itself. Del Long, basically 7-11. And I'm not talking about the convenience store that you find in America. Before that was Terrell Woods, who is 28-51. So Akpejiori, completely hopeless. It was all arms and legs and really went into panic mode from the opening bell because Makhmudov tried to stick it on him straight away. Makhmudov, he is a decent fighter. He's 17-0 right now, 16 KOs. Personally, I can't see this guy going all the way. I guess he's got a puncher's chance at most, but at heavyweight, most guys can punch. So having that punch is like, okay, yeah, it may pay off, but you might also get taken out yourself. And we saw the Takam fight. It was a little while ago now. I think that was back in September last year. But that Takam fight, he went 10 rounds with Takam, which, Takam's a tough guy and has since scored some a decent win over Tony Yoka. But I didn't like Makhmudov's performance in that fight from what I can remember. It was just Takam was able to stick it on him a little bit too easy for my money. So what happens when Makhmudov climbs up the ranks and he, I don't know, goes in against one of the contenders like Philip Hrgovic, or I don't know, Frank Sanchez or something like that. I think guys like that have his number because, yeah, Makhmudov's big and strong, but that seems to be all. Maybe a little bit of IQ when he has to change up his punches, but against someone like Akpejiori, I think Akpejiori probably landed like one jab in the entirety of this fight, which doesn't exactly answer many questions regarding, okay, what kind of resolve does Makhmudov have? How far does his IQ go? Stuff like that. How does he fight under high pressure, under duress? But nevertheless, I guess you could say he's a fun fighter to watch because he gets stuck in and he's willing to just let those fists fly. Definitely going to be interesting to see who they match him with next because, you know, he's fought a few names now. Michael Wallace before this, even though he's completely useless. Carlos Takam is probably the most high-profile name, either him or Marius Wack. Erkan Tepa, but when Erkan Tepa's not juiced up to the gills, he's not really doing much. Pavel Sauer, you know, who's he? Samuel Peter. So I'd say the most capable fighter on Makhmudov's record right now is either Carlos Takam or Johnny Rice. Makhmudov fought Rice back in 2019, so just over 4 years ago. Yeah, they're going to have to be careful with this guy because for all I can see, he's really just a puncher at this point. But I don't know, 34 years old, maybe he'll surprise me, but personally I doubt it. Anywho, it was a 2-round plastering of Raphael Akpejiori by Arslanbek Makhmudov. What do you make of this fight? If you can even call it that, it's really a one-sided drubbing. But yeah, leave your thoughts down below. And where do you think that Makhmudov goes next? Leave it down there and I'll get back to you. But for now, thanks for listening and I'll catch you in the next video.